Howdy, folks. I want to talk you through a little bit about the Malvern Hills Trail Half Marathon. So, firstly, its position in the UK is here. That's the area of the Malvern Hills. So, I'm going to keep zooming in, give you some top tips on the routes, a few little kind of pointers, and some thoughts. So, this is kind of the main ridgeline of the Malvern Hills, and that's where the kind of route is kind of based upon. We've got Great Malvern over here and West Malvern over here, which is where the registration and race HQ is. The route is a half marathon in length. It's just slightly over that, sort of 22 kilometers, and it's got 800 meters of height gain, so it is quite hilly. The West Malvern, where the race HQ and registration is quite small, and parking is limited. So please try and be respectful of residents when parking. And if you can park at one of the further away car parks and walk into the location as part of a kind of race warm up, then that'll be fantastic. We've got this year, there's a car park that we do have that's kind of here. We've got a couple of extra and additional toilets that are going to be used there. And then the race HQ is based at the Sugarloaf Cafe, which is a really lovely little cafe, and that'll be open all day for teas, coffees, cakes, and snacks. And then we've got a theatre hall just behind it that will seat 300 that we can do a race briefing, and your additional equipment can be left there. There'll be massages as well, or post-race massages for those that want it. So looking at the race route then, the route will be arrow marked and flagged, but we do encourage all runners to have the GPX file of the route on their sports watch or phone, just to aid navigation should that be needed. So the sort of start finish line is here, and that runs uphill to start before making a right hand turn and coming down. And this kind of first section is all on road and tarmac. Because it's going uphill, it's going to thin the pack. And as you kind of come down here, there's a sharp right hand turn and then a sharp left hand turn. And this is quite sort of steep and starts heading off road here. If you're looking for a top place finish, you really need to be in the front of the pack here, because you'll find that everything gets thinned out and it'll be harder to overtake going into the next section. Coming down through here, it starts then to get off road, slight uphill through grassy terrain before meeting a bigger track, which runs all the way. There's a couple of stiles here that come through, leading onto the road. This bit here, you come straight over a stile, then straight over a stile again, which leads onto a good wide track. That's really lovely views in this section. You come over a stile here, and this is up a sort of gravel track leading to a road. It is potentially sort of runnable for those with the leg power to do it. And you've got to look out for this sort of sharp right-hand turn, which goes up a narrow, steep incline. On the map, it doesn't show it here, but there is a left-hand turn on the map. It doesn't show, but there is one there, and that goes up to a point of interest of the Malvern Hills, which is one of the Malvern Hills springs. So there's water flowing out the ground, which can be collected for your water bottles if you should wish. Little short, steep uphill, which then joins onto a wide track, which leads sort of climbing slightly before hitting this point and heading downhill, which heads to the first aid station and checkpoint, which is here. There's toilets on the other side of the road should they be needed. So for those that want, can top on water, grab yourself a jelly baby, have a banana, and head on into the next section. So it's a sharp right there, and then left across the road and kind of down a gravelly track that spins around. You've got a narrow section here that runs slightly downhill on a sort of single track, which you can really give it beans down there. It's a really fun section, and I really enjoy it. And then there's a steep and sharp left that's kind of quite rocky and rooty. Be really careful. No trips, slips, or falls, please. Carry on down towards the road, and you're going to make a right-hand turn and then a left-hand turn that isn't necessarily super obvious. So look out for that here. And you're going through sort of grass and fields at this point. Point of interest, there's a disused swimming pool here on the right and a small railway, which is, unusual. And that comes to meet, and that goes past the school there. So there's a little narrowing past the school and up to the B road. You'll take a take a left and then immediately right, and you'll be onto sort of like a country manor style road here. Big trees, really open, very, very pretty section. Before taking a left up this sort of steep, straight hill. Again, it's another sort of quite a tricky one to run, that. At the top, you'll turn right, and that'll be on a good track again. That follows on down through, and there's a little gate here that you go through, and you take a right. On this section here, that ground, let me just zoom out a little bit there. Look. So that ground here is really quite rough, so you've got to be a bit careful of ankles or not rolling your ankles. When you come down to meet the fence line, you'll swing a left, and there's a sort of stile and a gate here that on the map you can see that the path goes around the outside is much easier. There's a big tree in the middle here. If you aim for that big tree, and pick a sort of dead straight line, then that'll lead you to the exit of the field at this point. So big tree, straight across, and then you'll be at the exit. Next section here is pretty cruisy. It's just on a nice field, sort of flat ground, and you're heading all the way out to this road. In previous years, we've done a left and then a right, but we've had some issues on a couple of the years with like cows being in the field, and they've been a bit skittish. So doing something different this year. So we're going to take a right and head down towards Colwell Green. And as you just come into the town, there's a left-hand turn that's going to come down a sort of small country lane, and then it heads off on like really nice sort of footpaths, good new gates that come all the way on flat ground to this point here, where it's going to sort of start heading up a little bit steeper. Again, at this point, it's kind of have a bit of faith and go for a diagonal line across the field to an exit at the top of the hill, where you're going to turn a left and then a right, and you're going through a nice kind of uphill woodland section that leads to checkpoint 2. So checkpoint and the aid station 2 is by the toilet block. Again, another chance to top up on water, use the toilet, and have some food should you wish. And then this next section is kind of utilising this main ridge lines of the Malvern Hills, and kind of what it's famous for, I suppose. The route turns left on the road, and then a sharp right that goes uphill before reaching the ridgeline proper. And on this kind of next section, you're just sticking on the true ridgeline itself, and you're trying to take in all the ups and downs that kind of throws at you. So real kind of keep on a sort of straight line, straight course north on that. There's a point here we're going to deviate to go off left, back down to the toilet blocks, and kind of checkpoint 1, which is checkpoint 3 now, and that heads back uphill on a good track that is tarmac. The tarmac track kind of starts wiggling around a little bit here, but what we want to do for us runners is stick on the main ridgeline itself, which will be off-road and generates a bit more height gain, although it is going to be on tired legs at this stage of the race. And this is going up to the highest point. So this is Worcestershire Beacon at 425 metres there. So you can slap the trig point, tag that, grab it and go. I'll have a photographer up there at some point as well, getting some race photos. Shortly after the trig point, it's a little bit rocky and blocky, so just be a bit careful with slips, trips and falls as you head on down for the next section, where you can really start to kind of open up and get some speed there. You can see it's a bit higgledy-piggledy on all these paths here, but you're just going straight down, straight through, and then you're contouring around North Hill and Table Hill over here, which is, you're getting good views all the way around it, and it's on a good sort of motorway style path that's a few metres wide. Leads all the way around the kind of back end of these hills. There's a slight uphill here, and as you come around this kind of bend here, it's then all downhill to finish. So kind of really give it full beans on this last section that comes round, and as you come into the finish line, you're looking for that sharp right hand turn which goes downhill past the Sugarloaf Cafe and come on round and into the sort of finish line. And Theatre Hall for tea and medals and prizes. Please make sure that when you do finish that we know your race number, so we can record that and the time. And that is a little overview of the Malvern Hills Trail Half Marathon.